Thank you, Dana, and the esteemed panel for the valuable insights on the value of failure, looking at investment as a social contribution, and deconstructing the current investment environment. I'd like to welcome on stage now for our CEO series, Mr. Omar Christidis, founder and CEO of ArabNet, who will be interviewing Mr. Salah AlFulaij, CEO of the National Bank of Kuwait.
Thank you all for your attention and for the great panel that we just had. I find Kuwait is an amazing place because there is so much honesty here. Everybody is so honest and direct with each other, and I think that really makes for a lot of good discussions and hopefully some good progress on the issues that are challenging entrepreneurs in this market. We are going to switch a little bit gears. We're thrilled to have our first CEO series for the event. CEO series we launched a couple of years ago when we realized that the digital sector was moving beyond entrepreneurs and geeks and really becoming a matter that is a top priority in boardrooms everywhere, across industries, major corporations investing in developing their digital channels, putting together innovation strategies to take and ensure that their company makes it to the next level. And we're thrilled to have with us Mr. Salah, the CEO of NBK Kuwait, to discuss some of his strategy and leadership for the future of the bank, especially in light of a lot of the fintech innovations that are taking place and that are capturing everyone's attention. So to kick off, just a quick background, if you can let us know about NBK's digital journey. How did we get to where we are today, and what does NBK look like today when it comes to digital?
صبحكم الله بالخير أول شيء. Thank you, Omar, for inviting me, and I hope I don't bore you. I'm not a fintech guy, but I'll try to be. NBK today is 65 years old. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, when it embarked on retail banking, and since then, NBK has been looking forward and trying always to improve customer service, and the best way to do that is using digital and technology. Today, NBK has got, in terms of ATMs, the first technology that came in, and by the way, it's this year, we all know it's 50 years since the ATM was introduced. We have currently about 280 ATMs, including between the regular ATM, DCMs, the deposit cash machines, and the interactive teller machines, serving along with 68 branches. And also we have about 12,000 point-of-sale machines around in Kuwait. More than 1/3 of them are tap and pay compliant for our cards, our stickers, our wearables that the bank had introduced. In our innovation, really, we look at two things. We look at cash, we look at paper. And we consider both as really enemies and as opportunities. They're enemies because of the cost, and we try to get clients to use less and less cash, more into electronic payments. Opportunities because anybody that comes across any transaction that includes paper or cash always have to sit back and think, what can I do to improve that? What can I do to move to a paperless environment? So that's
amazing. And so with that quick introduction, we'll dive right in with the big question, which is about really the future of the bank. What does the future of the bank look like? Will it have branches? What services will it provide? Can you give us your picture for what is the future of the bank?
To do that, let me first look at Kuwait and how technology really have been adopted in Kuwait. Today, we're like about 78% of people in Kuwait are online. The amount of online payment has grown by about 17% only in 2015. The mobile banking, there is about almost 200% penetration in mobile banking in Kuwait, and social media, about 3 million active social media people in the population in Kuwait. So people are looking for the bank of the future. What do they want? They want really 24/7 service. They want really more technology, and banks are looking at the cost. Currently, it costs about 65 cents for a deposit transaction done in the branch. It costs 8 cents when it's done on the ATM machine, and it costs only 3 cents when it's done on the mobile. So for a bank, I'm looking to save, and that's the only way is by adopting this technology. The future bank and the flagships of the bank will be really a more, say, community service. The branches will be enablers. They will not be service providers. Currently at MBK, we have testing with 2 branches, one in Khaitan and one in Bayan, where if you go in, really you will not find a teller. You will more or less you'll find a lot of ATMs, a lot of tablets in order to use, and people helping you with them. Also, you'll be sitting in like an airport lounge and being serviced. Is human touch important? Yes. We could use video conferencing more for the retail and not really the tech savvy people that wants to talk. For the high net worth, that's where more one-on-one advisory. For the masses, it will be more into the digital investment management. That what we are looking for. Number of branches will be less going forward. I think so. So we already see it in the States, where a lot of banks, it used to be a branch in every other corner, let's say in New York. Now they're closing down because more and more people are using technology and mobile. And really our strategy is mobile first.
So really moving from a kind of a transactional center, which is the branch, to being a little bit advisory and more like a showroom, really? Like a technology experience center?
It is.
Because most of the transactions will not be done in person in any way.
That is correct. There will be more, and as laws and regulations advance, in Kuwait, e-signature is now, the law is out. So as that advances, then people really do not need to come to a branch to sign a piece of paper. They can do everything on their machine. The branches will be more or less, some branches, I would say, especially in the main communities in the city, will be like an Apple store, where you go in and you look at what's happening, somebody there helping you. In rural areas, no, you still see branches that give the full service.
How many people here would love to see their bank experience be like an Apple store?
Hopefully.
I think
Hopefully.
we all might would like to see that.
And one thing that I believe that will be dissolved and will disappear is that debit card, because with e-wallets taking over, and hopefully when people like Apple Pay and Android Pay starts in Kuwait, the debit card will no longer be used. You can put it on your mobile. Really, face recognition, retina, all of this. The customers would no longer need to memorize their account number or PIN. It's really.
I look forward to this cashless day. I'm one of those people who doesn't own a car today, so I think I'm a strange bird. But so, what kind of technology trends do you see looking forward that banks really need to be aware of and focused on?
For example, blockchain.
Yes.
That is coming. Currently, it's, if I take it back, internet was introduced, but what we call the killer app for the internet was the email. Once email started, internet took over media almost 100%. The killer app for blockchain, it's still not discovered. Some would say Bitcoin or all the cryptocurrencies. I would say it's still, people are weary, they're not regulated, and criminals started using it. So it's not going to be adopted until the regulators have a better say in it. That's the...
So, but looking at Bitcoin today, we're talking really about payments. And with the entrance of players like Apple and Samsung, I mean, these massive global conglomerates, what will be the role of banks in this space? Will they be removed from the equation?
No, not at all. First of all, payments are eventually going to be a commoditized service. It will be, we see a lot of new companies and all deal with payments. Banks will definitely have to make that electronic. As I said earlier, it's cheaper for the banks, and people still trust, the customers still trust a bank because of it being regulated rather than a small fintech. However, banks cannot sit idle. Banks cannot sit behind saying, oh, I'm afraid, and security and all of this, let me not go in there. If we don't go in there, we're dead. We have to go in. We have to go in different ways, either collaborate with a fintech, really use blockchain. Some banks actually in the world have started using blockchains in places like trade finance or managing the bank's own liquidity. So banks are there, but still, fintechs are there and big. There is a lot of investments. I mean, we saw from Ahmed earlier, المشروعات الصغيرة. These are technologies that are going in. So far, and I would say in 2016 only, about 36 billion went into about 1,500 ventures that deal with only fintechs. 1,700 investors went in. And I'm talking only in 1 year. The regulator is coming. The regulator is looking into it. It's not ignoring, and the regulator will catch up. So as banks, if I sit behind the regulator and say, oh, no, it's not going to help me because the central bank will always protect me. No. Central banks and regulators have spent a lot of money, more than $2.5 billion also in 2016 to what they call RegTech. And regulations will be there to regulate it, and a new killer app will come for blockchains.
So here, let's take a quick straw poll for our audience. This time I actually do need you to participate. How many people here would trust a financial transaction to a non-bank entity? If you will raise your hand, if you feel totally comfortable transacting with a non-bank entity. How many people only feel that they could only transact and only trust a bank entity with their financial transactions? Raise your hand. Okay, good. Well, look, there is still a significant portion of our audience for which trust plays a factor. I would say maybe it's almost 2/3 of our audience. For them, the bank will still play a central role. So, given this context today, let's talk a little bit more about blockchain. Let's dive in, right? What kind of transformation do you see blockchain bringing into the banks, and how can banks really take advantage of this, or what are the major hurdles that they're going to face in implementing blockchain? This is, you said, the killer technology. It stands to disrupt the whole financial services landscape.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm saying blockchain still does not have that killer app, but it will be coming.
Okay.
Well, blockchain first, it will give you faster, cheaper way of doing transactions, transparency, because blockchain and accessibility, you can access it as long as you have internet. and transparency, because I could see the transactions going from all the history, or what we call an audit trail of it, and everything is time-stamped. So that part of security is there. There is no the insecurity of a firewall that somebody may hack into it, and I think blockchains will advance there. However, the hurdles that blockchains have are, first, you know, the consumer's trust, and as we can see, still people feel more secure with a regulated entity. There is the regulators that will still have not finished their RegTech until they finish. And of course, you know, banks will be hostile against the newcomer, the new kid. But as I said earlier, banks started using it, and we have to use it.
So if we shift a little bit gears, we talked about the blockchain. What about startups? A few years ago, everyone was saying fintech startups are going to disrupt the bank. They're going to eat all the bank's lunch. How should banks be operating within the fintech space? What should their relationship be with startups? What kind of strategies should they pursue?
I think we can't sit back and say, oh, they won't really be big, they will not affect us. No. Banks have got to collaborate, have got to really partnership with the startups and coexist with them. We as banks, we've been struggling with old legacy systems that are very, very hard to change. I mean, banks don't change a core banking system very fast, because it's very, very expensive and a lengthy process. The fintechs come in with, you know, a small, agile, and very nimble and quick way of adopting. So banks have got to collaborate with this. It's not really advisable to sit back and say, I'll do it. How do we do it? There are a number of ways. We can partner, we can buy, really even acquire some of the...
And is this something that you as a bank are actively considering? Are you looking at certain startups or entities that you would invest or acquire?
Actually, we have.
Really?
We did, and soon enough, you know, we will be introducing, and when I say we, it's part of the group, it's MBK Capital, which is the investment banking arm, did purchase a digital investment service entity, and that will offer, and it will be seriously the only portal or service in Kuwait that will offer end-to-end technology, no human interference. It will be what you call a robo-advisor, but it's end-to-end. You don't have to. It's offered by MBK Capital, not even the bank, and it's offered to everybody in Kuwait, anybody with a residency in Kuwait. And if we sat back and said, okay, we will do it, it'll probably take us a few years, but we saw an entrepreneur, a very good Kuwaiti, and we thought the product really looks good. So we use the bank's mean and the bank customer base and resources, sat together, acquired, and inshallah, very, very soon you will see it. And it's a really robust system.
That's very exciting. We look forward to hearing about it. Of course, the challenges with large companies and small companies when they get together, sometimes there can be some challenges. So we wish you the best of luck with this transition.
Thank you.
I guess my last question for you is, today when we look at banks are like other large institutions today, engaging with startups as a source of innovation. But what are some ways that banks or other large institutions can really foster innovation internally?
Okay. Innovation in a bank or any large institution has really got to be adopted at the top. If people at the top are not into it, it will never exist. Because you got to really think, innovation does not mean for every dollar or every KD that I put, I will have to make 2 or make 1.5 KD. Sometimes I'll put something and it's a service and it's not going to make me money. I have to really build that culture of innovation within the team, within everybody in the bank. Encourage people and reward people for innovation, even if it was small. It doesn't have to be a big scale. Reward them whether they succeed or failure. We just heard earlier, fine, you know, fail. Is every product that the bank came out with succeeded? No. Did we learn from our failure? Of course. And I have to reward even people because I have to make them think out of the box. I gotta make them how to make it easier for my clients and how to make it cheaper for the bank. Build an R&D or an innovation center in the bank. Give it its own budget, its own autonomy. And alhamdulillah, we have that in MBK, and they're agnostic of which area of the bank. It doesn't have to be under only, say, retail banking or wholesale banking or operations and back office, but across the whole bank. And they have to really deal with everybody and come up with ideas and encourage people to come up with ideas.
Amazing. Mr. Salah, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us. I'm excited to see that you're very bullish on digital and fintech, and that you're ready to dive in with the startups and with other companies that are really innovating. So if we have some fintech players in this room, we invite you again to talk, and maybe you too can get some collaborations going. So thank you very much, and thank you to our audience.